I'm Tania Rogers, and you're listening to Mindful Hustler, the podcast helping entrepreneurs get out of their heads and onto building their dreams. Together, we're building businesses while balancing minds. Let's dive in. This week, we're sitting down with Ora Kemp, the bold and beautiful founder behind the Bodega Bites, an organization working at the intersection of food justice, policy, education, and advocacy for underserved communities. Ora opens up about her journey to becoming a powerful leader advocating for food security and equality for everyone, especially NYC residents. We talk about the real barriers that keep change makers from launching their vision, what it looks like to lead from the inside out, and how Ora built a purpose-driven brand from the ground up while navigating the various changes of fighting for change. Ora, I'm so excited you're here.
Very excited to be here. I feel like this conversation is long overdue, and I'm super excited just to be able to share.
Oh my goodness, me too. You let me just start by saying this. You are just such a dope person. I remember, so we met back in, it had to be like 2015 or 2016. I don't remember the exact year.
That sounds right. Yeah. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. We met at Jaipur. You were running the Karma Yogi program at the time, and Jaipur is the yoga studio that we both did our teacher training at. And I just remember being in your class and looking at your head wrap and the vibe of your class, and I'm just like, oh, I just want to absorb your vibe. You're so cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty appropriately named Aura. Like it's quite the vibe. And I think that's like one of my kind of superpowers is the ability to connect with folks, to create an environment where people feel like safe and comfortable in doing that. It's part of the community building. Like everybody's part of the community. So you care for them, we all support each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. So take us back to your earliest memory of food access and equality.
I spent a lot of time with my grandmother when I was a kid. My mom, as a single parent, like she worked a lot. My mom is also incredibly driven. So it wasn't until later in her life that she went back to seek higher education and do all these things. She had joined the Navy as like the primary opportunity for herself to build a future. She was always really busy. So me and my siblings would spend a lot of time with my grandmother, and her kitchen was the place where like it was everything. It was like the community space. It's where we learned our lessons. It's where we also learned how to care for ourselves. And she had chronic goiters. They're called caused by an
Mm-hmm.
iodine deficiency. And her lymph node just underneath her chin would swell like a little golf ball. And I remember anytime I saw that little golf ball in her throat, it meant that we were going to be having cucumbers with salt as our snack, like the entire week until that ball on her neck went away. And I remember thinking that like salt, something so small, because it's we have iodine in our table salt here, right, in the States. So realizing that something as small as salt could have such a change on her physical appearance, you could physically see this lump disappearing. I was like, food is medicine, and my grandmother had she had some kind of cure for every single ailment in the kitchen. Like it all started there. And not realizing as a kid, but like it's because we didn't have money to go to the doctor for everything, so like food had to be the thing that we relied on. And um there were times when we would eat a lot of just like rice with tomatoes and cucumber and like rice wine vinegar. That would always be like the basis of every single meal. And then if we had other things, it would be paired in. And you don't notice it really when you're a kid so much, but you definitely see it more as you become an adult and you start caring for yourself. You're like, wow, like that was because we didn't have all that much and we were stretching what we did have. And we were able to kind of share still in creating like space at the table to cultivate family and community, but it was over like a small amount that we all got to sharing together. I think as an adult, I'm doing a fellowship right now and it comes along with the stipend, and the stipend they give us in these installments, and you invest in yourself, things that you need. And I asked them, could we spend it on like groceries and rent? Like if we need to, they were like, if that will help you feel secure, like use it for that, invest in yourself. And so I went to Trader Joe's, and every week I plan out my meals. I'm pretty particular, and it's not just because I want to be able to eat well through the week, but it's also realizing that I don't have a lot of disposable income to just spend on whatever. So I go through this time to plan out things, and I have my little list of stuff, and I'm standing in Trader Joe's with the first installment of my fellowship funds, and I'm like realizing I can get anything that I want in the store right now. Like, forget the plan, forget all the time and effort that went into it. Like, I could literally get whatever I want. I could buy every single item in the store that I want and still get nowhere close to expending those funds. And it hit me like, girl, you're food insecure. That's what this is like. It was the realization that even as an adult, so many of my decisions about how I eat or care for myself are shaped by how much money I have, like, or don't
Yes.
have to invest in
Yes.
myself. And you start to realize like it's like those little choices that you have to make every day to negotiate it. That for me was like putting dots together from both as a kid, the choices that my mother and grandmother had to make to care for us, and now as an adult, how that carries forward. Like, surely we can come up with a better system than this. Like, we don't need people to be food insecure. We don't need a middleman of money to get access to food. Like, we can think of a better way to make sure everybody has their needs met than what we're doing right
Why do you think sometimes it's so difficult for people to be creative when it comes to eating? I know sometimes I
now.
struggle with it as well. Like
Mhm.
when you said you stood in Trader Joe's and you thought and you had this positive moment, I actually envisioned myself standing. I live around the corner from Whole Foods, and sometimes I get overwhelmed and I'm like, what do I do? Like how do I so where does that come from? How do you think people can get over that and how do you
Yeah,
do
I
it?
mean, sometimes it's just being a little bit more adventurous. Like when that whole trend of girl dinners was happening, I got so excited because I call that the mixed decision meal. Like a meze style plate that's kind of a bunch of different items together is my favorite kind of meal. And it's also a really great way to introduce things that you're not normally going to eat. I used to do nutrition education, and when it comes to kids, it's easy to get them to try something if you pair it with something else that's familiar. So
Yes.
whether that means like incorporating, veggies into like a mac and cheese so that it encourages them to try it. Or even like something that I've noticed is like I'm not a fan of a sweet breakfast. I like a savory breakfast. But it's hard to find like a savory granola. And I was like, I wonder if I could make a savory granola. It's like, what are the savory flavors that I crave in the morning? Can I put that with oats and nuts and create like something like I found you can use egg whites as binders the same way that you would use a honey in an oatmeal to make like a granola with an oat. You can make it savory. And I was like, oh, I love this. Put that with a bit of Greek yogurt, a quick poached egg. Like that's a great breakfast that I would have normally not have thought of. But you just have to like adventure a little, find something familiar and just tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
I've noticed that like even, I love getting to try food from different cultures. So I love when people cook for me or getting to taste someone else's like home cooking. Like I'll often ask people, what's a dish that like a dish that you loved growing up or a dish that if you were to put yourself on a plate, what would that plate be? What would that dish be? Just leaning into that and then seasonality. I love being able to just try different things when they're in the season. Things taste better when you have them in the season that they're grown in. And I think that's
Mm.
something that we've actually lost is our ability to like eat with the seasons, with the earth when things are ripe and fresh and in abundance. That's when food tastes the best. So even if it's like subbing out an ingredient for something that's in season and then waiting, like trying it out in a new or different way, I find that to be helpful.
What's some of your favorite foods?
Ooh, I love English peas. I love pasta, like
Ooh.
any kind of a noodle. If you put something in noodle form, I'm going to eat it. Same with potatoes. I love potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes are a good one. You can do so many different things with them.
Very
Yeah.
versatile and typically store really well so you can get them in bulk and then hold them for an extended amount of time. It's not like they turn too quickly. And I'm very into soups. Like I love when you can put
Mm.
something in a crock pot, like something that's like slow and slow. And again, in the spirit of trying to use all of my food, at the end of a lot of weeks, I'll just make like a quick crock pot mix. Like I call it my kitchen clear out. I'll just take all of the additional veggies and anything that I have, put them in with a couple of beans and let it go overnight. Oh my gosh. You'll make enough for like yourself to last through the week, enough to put into the freezer and have as backup later. Um,
Yeah.
I'm really big on trying to use all of my food items. I don't do food waste. That's something that everybody knows about me. It's just like sometimes it takes a little creativity to keep it exciting. Yeah.
I could definitely use all the tips with that because I find I get so sad when I go to clear out the fridge at the end of the week and there's waste and I'm like, I forgot about this item. I didn't even I barely put a dent in this one and it makes me so sad. So it's
Yeah.
definitely something that like we're actively working on in the house. So yeah, I could use some of those tips, girl.
Are you an ingredients house? Like, do you guys buy ingredients or do you buy like food, like items, like meals?
So B loves to cook. He will want to cook something and go and buy the ingredients.
Okay.
I, on the other hand, I try to just hodgepodge things together
Mm-hmm.
without really knowing what I'm doing. So I think I need to take more time to do the research behind what I need before getting there
Mm-hmm.
because I think that that trips me up. But for the most part, I think that we are because he likes to cook and he'll do that. But I think we overestimate. And then also we cook a lot of different things during the week. And so sometimes it's like you may eat something once and then just never touch it again and you're on to the next. So we got to get better at that because
Yeah.
we are really contributing to a lot of waste with that.
It's just, it's tricky. And it's like also the trade-off is time, right? So like
Yeah.
you're spending all this time preparing the food and then with the time, I'm sorry, you got kids. Like it's work.
It is work.
It is so much time that has to go into these things. So again, this is why I like meals that I can kind of like prep in advance and then pull from throughout the week. And I have to have some kind of a plan. Otherwise, it does go to waste. And all I got in the house to eat the food is me. And it's like if I don't eat it, it's definitely not getting, it's not gonna go. So it does take effort. And I think sometimes planning does help. But I also like to just wing it sometimes. Sometimes I just want to go with it. And I think that can be a challenge to balance,
For
with everything
sure.
else. But
So what inspired you to launch the Bodega Bites?
it initially started, a friend recommended that I start an account. I didn't have an experience like making video content, but I really loved food videos, like sharing about like the foods that I was eating. And in my neighborhood at the time, the Bronx had about 32 to 1 bodega to grocery store ratio, where it's like you have an overabundance of bodegas and not nearly as many grocery stores to get like ingredients and fresh items or frozen items or canned items. You can always get like canned shelf stable things at the bodega, but it's often difficult to get like full meals from there unless it's prepared food. So I wanted to kind of show my process, like as someone who, again, was working in nutrition education. I have all the knowledge, I have all the skills, I've been trained to help other people figure this out. So here I was in a neighborhood that had all of these bodegas, and I was like, let me see if I can challenge myself to make healthy meals. Oftentimes it'd be like, I haven't done groceries. I haven't been able to make it to a grocery store or plan things out for the week. So I just wanted to very quickly go and throw a meal together. Here's what I have in my pantry, or here's what I have at my house. Let me see what I can throw together with stuff from the bodega. So I would just film myself doing it. I'm hungry. Let's go get something from the bodega. This is what I had in my house. This is what I pick up at the bodega. I show them how much it costs. And then I show them what I make with it. Like, this is the meal I make for myself. And typically it was enough to have like a meal for myself that day and then take something for lunch the next day. So realizing this was both something that was affordable and it was functional for my life. And I was able to kind of make healthy meals and realize that like other people could use this kind of information, this education more accessibly. And then like one day I was on my bus and the guy's like, "You're the Bodega Bites, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me."
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's
That's
like
so cool.
I realized like, oh my gosh, my videos are actually like getting to people who
Yeah.
who I'm like aiming to reach. Like this is actually really this is good. This is good. This is education. And then I realized that people were interested in knowing more about policy and politics and what shapes their foodscape and all of these things that influence how people are able to gain access to food or how they're restricted from food. And I was working at an emergency food pantry at the time, and my team was doing nutrition education for pantry members and community members. And then we started doing like food as medicine programs and green market tours and our own farm share program. And just realizing that a lot of times these things aren't accessible to neighborhoods that aren't invested in, that don't have the infrastructure, that don't have like the political power or monetary power. And it doesn't mean that they don't deserve it. You deserve to have access to food in one of the most densely populated cities in our country. We should have food accessible everywhere. It should be everywhere. And realizing that it's not. I feel like the Bodega Bites was an attempt to try and address some of that, give visibility to it, but also hopefully change the way that we look at the role of food as part of our basic human rights. And within our neighborhoods and communities, it means that you should have access to them, multiple ways to access food and the right kinds of food, the stuff that we know promotes and preserves your health. And it
Yes.
shouldn't be so expensive that you can't get it, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or so inaccessible in the same vicinity. I remember the first time I really noticed it, I was subbing as like a substitute teacher at the time. I was in between, I think I was in between like college and grad school. And I was working, going on a lunch break. And I remember wanting a salad. And
Hmm.
I was like, I looked on, like the app or whatever. I was like, I have to drive. How far? Like what? And I was in, what town was I in? Irvington, and I was subbing in Irvington. I was like, wait a minute now. But I could look to my left and my right, and there's all these there's like
Hmm.
Popeyes, McDonald's, like all
Yeah.
these other, you
Yeah.
know,
It's like there's
it's true.
food. It's not that there's not food. It's just not the stuff that we
Yeah.
would want to see in that kind of abundance, right? Yeah.
Right, right. And I get, sometimes it's like what people can afford, right? Like
Right.
if it's like, that's what you can afford, then that's understandable, but you should have the option.
Hmm.
Sometimes you do want, something fast, but then also, you want to be able to have healthier options right in your backyard. And when I lived in the Bronx, actually, I found that it was the same problem. I lived in the Bronx maybe like 10 years ago, and in my community, and I wasn't driving, so I was
Yeah.
really, I
Yeah.
had to walk and take
Really.
the bus.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a major problem, major, and
Yeah.
I know it still is.
When we talk about accessibility, you said something really important was choice. Like that choice, that autonomy where you are actually able to show your own ability, that agency is so incredibly important. And that is often the first thing that is stripped from you when you live in a neighborhood that doesn't have equitable access to food. And do you remember the
Yes,
Pathmark that was in the Lackawanna Plaza in Montclair?
yes, in
And when
Montclair.
that closed, because the property
Yes,
value there was going up so quickly, they couldn't afford the rent. They didn't replace that grocery store for years. And
exactly.
that was where all of the low income housing was centralized. That's where all the senior housing was centralized. And Essex County is one of the only counties in New Jersey that does not, or Montclair is one of the only towns in Essex County that doesn't pay for a senior shuttle. So, and all of the other towns in Essex County, they contribute to a senior shuttle that will go to where all of the senior housing is, and then will commute them to different places that they need to get to. Montclair does not contribute to that. So when they closed the Pathmark, all of those seniors, all of those low income families that lived in walking distance at grocery store, the next closest grocery store became Whole Foods on
Yeah,
Bloomfield Avenue.
yeah.
At the time, Whole Foods didn't even accept SNAP. So
Wow.
it's like you literally removed, because of the way that the property values were shifting. The city allowed for the grocery store. The city could have stepped in and said, "Hey, we're actually going to put a pause on raising the rents in this property because this is a common good, access
Hmm.
to food at an affordable grocer. We don't have a replacement yet, so we're going to keep it here under a special contract." They could have done that, but instead, they allowed the Pathmark to close, and that city set vacant. It's still empty. I think
It's
now they do
still,
like the flea market, they do like the little
yeah,
holiday
like the
markets and
food
stuff there,
truck.
like the pop ups
Yeah.
and things, but it's still empty. To this day, it's still empty, which means that neighborhood's still. So now what? They have to go to Bloomfield, all the way down
Exactly.
Bloomfield Ave into the next town just to get access to an affordable grocery store and get it all the way back. Like, this is also in the Bronx, everything is so close together. You want to be able to walk to your grocery store and get food because the mobility challenges, limitations, the ability to actually carry all of your food back to your home is also
Yes,
access, right?
yes.
You get your steps in, you're lifting things, you're
I remember. Oh my
exercising.
goodness.
That's
I
a
remember when
lifestyle without a
I
car.
was not used to that. I was such a Jersey girl. I was like, wait a minute. What am I supposed to
It's
do?
like
I have my
people
little
pump
grocery
our
bags.
gas. Yeah, like it's a whole thing, right? Like,
I can't even bring that many things. Like I'm gonna have to just whatever I could
yeah.
carry on my back. And that's why you see so many people with like the shopping carts in the
I call
city
them the
too.
abuelita cards. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta have it. But
I
even
got it. Yeah, I was like, yep.
because you have to carry everything, you also can only get so much at a time, which means you
Yeah.
have to make more frequent trips. So we talk about time as a commodity, the time it takes for you to prepare your meals, the time it takes for you to do grocery shopping, all these things.
Yes.
The amount of time that people in low income or low socioeconomic or underinvested or gentrifying neighborhoods, the challenge there is that they don't have the time to do all of it. They don't have the time to go to a different borough to get access to a decent grocery store. They don't have time to spend preparing all their meals from scratch because they can't get decent prepared meals in their neighborhood. Like it's really everything comes down to time and how you're able to invest it. And when you have to dedicate more just for your basics to get access to your basics, there's work that we can do. We can improve this. We can do better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as you're active, you're advocating on social media. I
Mhm,
see you going to talks and teaching and on panel discussions,
mhm.
and you're really, really educating the community. Were there ever times where you felt, I don't know, nervous or anything? Because if you have, I could not tell. You never look
All of the
nervous, but
time.
really,
All of the time. Um, I always felt really awkward with even the TikTok videos. So when I started the Bodega Bites, I just felt awkward talking to a camera. Like the our relationship with our devices is so like I find it to be very strange. And someone told me you want to use your phone as if you're like on FaceTime with somebody. Like just talk to people, you know?
great.
Yeah,
That's a
just like
great
talk to
tip.
people. And I was just like, I didn't think about that like that. Like how would you talk to your friends about these things? So now when, if I get asked to speak on panels, it's part of it is like my experience, like the things that I can say, these are my firsthand accounts, and then how that links to actually what I do with my work. So, I work for the mayor's office. I get to shape food policy. I have Bodega Bites as a way to connect with my community members in a more direct and unfiltered way. I am often asked to speak on panels to kind of give a bridge between those two worlds because, I commute an hour to get to work every morning, and that's if the trains are running how they're supposed to. And, you know, as someone who is also responsible for shaping how our city eats, and I'm responsible for millions of food insecure people and making sure we have enough emergency food that's going out to pantries and coordinating and strategies to try and address increasing access to the right kinds of food while we're also losing funding for those programs at the federal level. You're navigating all these things and then you're coming home to your own neighborhood and realizing like, oh, now I have to go an hour to get to a grocery store. Now I have to do it's like it feels my worlds collide often, and getting to share with other people about what that's like to like live in the Bronx but work in one of the wealthiest counties in our country. Like it all feels very real. And I get to speak to folks about that work, like how I'm able to advocate because I live in it and I know what needs to change and I see how effective it can be in other areas. And I'm like, why can't we do this for everybody? Um, and it's also, I think, a commitment to the work of like anti-hunger because food is a human right. Like there's some really interesting work that's being done right now around trying to rewrite state constitutions to include a right to food. And this is where like my yoga practice comes in because the idea that like we can have so much, like we can have food in abundance to the point where we're wasting hundreds of thousands of tons of food a year. How can we have so much wealth being generated while also having so many people food insecure and houseless and in need of healthcare? Like it's just, we can do better. So the work around right to food is an attempt to ground in policy how it is that we value people's access to the food that they need. So Maine currently is the only state with a constitutional right to food. And so people are able to grow and produce and consume and trade their food however they please. New York don't have as much space as they have in Maine to grow and produce and consume our food. So the state of New York has introduced, Assembly Member Solange has introduced an amendment to the state constitution to include a right to food. And it expands the definition to include like folks in urban areas like New York, that they have a right to live in a neighborhood that has equitable access to food. And I think that that puts then a lot of power within the city to prioritize addressing food insecurity through the built environment. Like city-owned grocery stores are being floated right now as an idea by one of the mayoral candidates, and people are like, "What do you mean, a city-owned grocery store? Like you're going to put grocers out of business?" It's like we already have city-owned grocery, we have government-owned grocery stores in the military.
Mm,
Like we have it in the military and it works. It's been
mm.
there. It's a standard part of like living on a military base. You have access to a grocery store. There's a government owned grocery store in Brooklyn at the Navy Yard. Like there are ways
That's
for us to
interesting.
do this, and
Yeah.
keep prices affordable because food as a human right is not something that we should be priced out of. You shouldn't be priced out of food, just like you shouldn't be priced out of housing. Like it's crazy.
It really is.
Yeah,
It
I think
really
a lot
is.
of that is shaped by my yoga practice and, being a yogi, you have to bring the humanity back into these systems.
I find that I use my practice in so many different ways. It's definitely like the gift that keeps on giving. Like
Mhm.
like there in the yoga philosophy, there's so many different teachings, and I remember just being like, "What?" Like when we learn them, like I don't understand it. And now, just just going through everyday adulting, and then dealing with people and dealing with government forces, all the things I draw from it often, and it makes more sense now than ever.
Yeah. It's like, and to have that to fall back on, like, it is interesting when you first learn about the practice of yoga and the scriptures in yoga and like how we can practice in life, like principles that are really centered in our shared humanity. You're like, wow, this seems so straightforward. Like it seems like it's very easy, but it's the actual work of implementing.
Yes.
It reminds me a
Yes.
lot of like the yoga practice. It's like you might not see the impacts of what you've done when you're doing it every single day. That's what it's about. It's about the daily work of progressing towards something better. And I think that it's helped me to discipline myself even in, working in these spaces around food. I can sometimes get very frustrated, like when it's not making progress as quickly as I want
Yeah.
it to. But it's like, but we've come very far already. Like it's just the daily work of continuing. Yeah, man.
So, what advice would you give someone who wants to build a purpose-driven brand rooted in advocacy?
Mm. Have a good community of people around you. Have a good support system, especially in advocacy. In my space of like political advocacy, it can be very precarious, especially today, to speak out about just like what it means to respect the humanity of each person, which is crazy that you even have to think of that, like that you that this is even like something that's up for debate, but apparently it is. Like I had I'd shared a video on both my TikTok page and on my Instagram. I've been trying to share more onto my Instagram. And because TikTok like kind of curates feeds and who sees your content into people who have like similar or aligned ideas, like I didn't get as many views, but on Instagram, like it must have hit some group of folks that the comments on this post. I mean, people just like it was about the food system. Like when I had gone and spoken to a class of graduate students who were studying nutrition. One of them asked me what I thought my biggest concern about under the new administration would be related to food security. And I said, I think it's going to be around labor rights, specifically looking at the role of migrants in our food system, 70% of the jobs within our agricultural system are done by people who are not born in this country. And some of that is through government programs where they actually offered green cards for people to come to the States and work in agriculture. Some of it is
Mm,
because that's where a lot of work of paying people under the table happens, which is just, it's been an adopted part of our system for a very long time. But now they're attacking workers as opposed to going after the employers or as opposed to like dismantling the
yeah.
entire like incentive system for a green card. They're going after laborers. And I was like, and I don't think folks understand how powerful fear of going to work and being arrested and potentially deported or imprisoned by ICE. Just the possibility of it happening is enough to keep people from going to work. Like that will keep people from going out. And I know that because we see within the emergency food network, people are afraid to go to pantries to get food because they think that ICE is going to be waiting for them. Like they are so scared. Fear on its own can be debilitating. And if even a fraction of our farm workers are fearful of going to work, we could be seeing massive food shortages. And our system works with like so many big like aggregated players that like right now the tariffs caused Del Monte, the canned food company, to file bankruptcy because they can't get the tin for their cans. Like, that's off of a very small tariff that was implemented. It's taking out one of our largest standing canned produce companies in our country. And so, our system is very fragile. It's built itself up so big that it's very fragile. And I was like, if folks are afraid to go to work, we're going to have food shortages. I was like, and I think they're going to try and address it by instituting forced labor. They're going to be building a lot of prison camps to force people to then, like, they're going to round them all up. And essentially, then the government is
New
going to
form of
lease them back out
slavery.
to those same that I was like, they're essentially just recycling the system and they're trying to reinstitute slavery underneath the guise of like public safety and all this stuff. I was like, but that's not what this is about at all. Right. And if they can use slave labor to grow the food, then that's going to bring down food prices, which is another thing that they're trying to do. It's like realizing that we need to be very, very, very cautious about how it is that we're um, putting value or devaluing people's lives for the sake of political gain. And this is all just a play for very powerful people to continue exploiting all of us. And so I find it hard sometimes to to be an advocate in this space when things are so politically charged. It's like, man, I'm just saying that everybody should have access to food. I, you know, so like having a good community of people around you that you can lean into, like, am I crazy? Or, and,
Right.
they can help to really guide you when you're feeling like not like you don't want to share anymore. Like I don't get paid to do TikTok. I was very intentional about not monetizing my platform because I don't want it to always have to be transactional. I think that people should be engaged. I think everyone should be an advocate, whether that means you share information or you help develop content or you go out and share stories or you put your bodies on the line at protest or you make signage at home for people who are going to protest, like whatever way you can show up. I think we have a responsibility to each other to do that, even if it means just making sure that you are casting your vote. Like whatever advocacy, whatever form advocacy takes for you, just have really great people in your community to lean back into because they'll always help to reinforce you and keep you going.
Wow, this conversation is so invigorating. And you have that impact. You really do. And of course, that's why, you have the gift of just having such an impactful voice.
Hmm.
It's your superpower. It really is. How do you stay connected to joy while working in justice spaces?
Well, I think I'm lucky in that food is joy for me and getting to work in food advocacy. Like the number of incredible dinners that I've had with people, like, during the pandemic, uh, we we started doing picnics in the park. My friend group started doing picnics in the park, and we found one that was kind of like centrally located for all of us, and we would all like bike or walk to the park, and we'd do picnics outside together. It became like ritual, It almost became like a shared reflection. Like we all got to kind of hold up mirrors and see each other and like be in a shared space. And I had a backyard at the time. So a friend of mine who was a chef was like, oh, let's do a dinner at your place. So we started hosting dinners in my backyard and just
Yeah, they
realizing
look
that
so cool on Instagram. I remember watching. I was like, "Oh, this is so beautiful!" And all the flowers and
yeah, like,
the
because
candle.
like I could cook and I do now for like our what we call our family dinners. We do one Sunday every month where we all get together at a different person's house and do family dinner. And being able to carry that forward was so like to me it feels like going to church, like being able to have that time to just be in community and to share with others and to catch up. And we're all so busy, so like having that dedicated time is really special. But I am a firm believer that you don't really know somebody until you dine with them. Like until you sit down and share a meal. Like, do we really know each other? I always invite that opportunity to like connect with people. Like I want to share in that with you. And there's something that's just very, you know, humane about that connection. It's like it's very deeply connected to us throughout our histories, the way that we have always shared,
It's true.
believed. celebrated, like memorialized. Everything always
So
has
good.
food at the center of it.
Yes, yes.
That is what separates us from every other animal. Like, we connect around food. We truly and deeply have so much community on the plate. And so, like, I find a lot of joy in that. Food is just a naturally joyous space. So I really like getting to lean into that and just remind myself that, like, this is what binds us together as people. This carries our histories. It will shape our future. Like, everything is about food. So I feel a lot of joy often working in this space.
What does success mean to you today?
Success today. I get to wake up and do work that makes me feel a sense of purpose, that impacts people's lives, that helps to make our planet better. And it allows me like a level of stability and comfort that I just feel like, when I was younger, everything felt like I had to hustle so hard. And now I realize that there can also be ease in that. The fellowship I'm going through, I have a phenomenal team of folks who are supporting us through this, and one of them, they are trained in somatic teachings, and we do these one-on-one sessions. And I realized, in a recent session that I was doing with them, that I have been feeling a lot of like anxiety. Like, I have like, rashes and things popping up that I never used to have before. My doctor was like, this is stress related. Like, girl, get it together. And I'm like, okay, my body is telling me that I need to change things up to care for it. And I was explaining to them that I was getting this shortness of breath, this tightness and twitching in my eye and fingers whenever I would start getting into these mostly political rants or ravings, or, just kind of getting really in the thick of it. And they asked me, like, if your breath is getting short, what is your normal response? And normally I lean into my yoga practice. I ground myself, I take in deep breaths and all these things. And they challenged me. They said, what if you do the opposite? Your body is telling you to shorten your breath. What if you put a hand up against your breath, and instead of taking a deeper breath, you take a shorter one, shallow it out? What does that do? Let's give it a couple tries. And I noticed the first time I got like hot. It was like, I was like, I felt almost even more tightness. And then like, do it again, and just like focus on the breath, the inhale only. And so I realized that I would give like a lot of effort in the inhale, but make it shallow. But the exhale, I would let myself have more time for the release. So it's a quick sip of breath in, and then a long exhale out. And something about it just like allowed my shoulders to like release down, like, and I realized I was giving my body what it was asking for with the shortness of breath. I was putting in that short initial effort, but I was letting myself cruise on the release. Like, okay, let's do a little bit of work and then let everything else go. And I feel like that's kind of what success has become for me. It's the ability to do this very short, powerful amount of work and then allow it to cruise out and let the impact kind of ripple, savor that ease that comes from having one solid push and then doing it again. Like, it's giving myself the time in between where it used to just be like, go, 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 short breath, short breath, short breath, short breath. Like, I'm giving myself now the time to do that quick little breath in. And that's what success now is feeling more like.
Resonates with me so much. And I am going to think of that when I do my breath work, because you're right. There's something that happens when you really like push against something and you're very resistant and you think it has to look a certain way, be a certain way. I do that with breath work as well. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I need to deepen and
Mhm.
slow. But I love that. What if you lean into it and give your body what it's asking for instead?
Mhm.
It's brilliant,
It was like
brilliant. Thank you
such
for sharing that.
an aha thing for me. I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, it's almost like you're trained in this. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And they are really trained in this. It's like, and sometimes your body just knows. Like, sometimes your body just knows, and it's about listening. And I was like, wow, I feel very connected right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That really leads into my next and really last question that I always ask the guests is, what does hustle mindfully mean to you? But I
Mm.
feel like you really spelled that out, because that really what it is. Do you have anything else to add to that definition?
Yeah, I think it's also, I find myself wanting to be challenged in different ways. I've always been someone who's wanted to do like a million different things. And as you're coming through your adulthood, when you first get out there, you kind of jump at everything. You allow yourself the opportunity to explore. And then over time, we kind of hone in. We find that one thing that we're really good at, that we really want to invest in developing. And I think with that also comes uh, like we can come become sometimes a little rigid. And I've been realizing that one of the pieces of this continued work for me is like keeping my mind open and malleable to new things. So like I've been wanting to get more into like crafting, and I've been wanting to like figure out, could I do sculpture? What about finger painting? Could I get into whittling, or do I pick up an instrument, or like wanting to find other like creative ways to keep myself like flexible. Like this is where I think I think the trick of yoga is like what keeps you young is keeping your body like limber and moving and flexible, which is why I think that yoga is so incredible. Like longevity is the ability for the body to stay in motion. That's the same thing for the mind, right? And although physically I might not be hustling like I was in my 20s, I am mindfully hustling in the way that I will not allow myself to become rigid. Like, I want to still be expansive. I still want to have opportunities to challenge myself in new ways. And I'm finding that part of what makes me truly feel like I embody a hustler's mindset is that I want to still grow and I still want more. Like the spirit of being able to achieve more, share more, educate more, advocate for more, change more, like all of that is still there. But it's been like honed in a way that also makes it so strategic, and it brings a level of mindfulness in that I think is really needed, especially within the political space, especially within the advocacy space. Like remember why you're doing it, but don't let yourself get too rigid. Allow yourself to still adventure and explore. And I think it keeps us young, mentally, physically. I think it keeps us connected to the people around us. And I think it really gives us the opportunity to develop in new ways that are really important when you're out here hustling.
Ora, you are such a joy to talk to, and I feel like we could just talk all day.
I know, I know.
Thank you so
This is
much for doing.
yes. This is really, really fun. It was an absolute delight to get to catch up, and I feel like we need more
Yes,
conversations like this.
we do. We do. Where can people find you?
Okay, I'm out here on socials, the Bodega Bites on Instagram and TikTok. And if you ever want to connect with like my professional work and things that I'm doing within the food policy space, I am on LinkedIn, Ora Kemp NPH.
Thanks so much for listening. If you like this episode and you don't want to miss another, make sure you subscribe. See you next time.